were reflecting that this morning.
There's a lot going on. So let's go to our royal news now. And the big sort of bombshell thing that's landed is the memoir that's been written by Earl Spencer. That's, of course, the brother of Princess Diana. And the Mail on Sunday is running it today, and reading it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end, because in it he talks about how he was sexually abused as a child at boarding school.
Well, in an extract of his soon-to-be-released memoir, serialised in the Mail on Sunday today, Earl Spencer reveals he was targeted by a female member of staff at Maidwell Hall in Northamptonshire in the 1970s. And this abuse, he says, began when he was just 11 years old.
Yeah, and the abuse went on from the headmaster as well. It's just spine-tingling to read it. He's now 59, of course, and Earl Spencer alleges all that abuse began when he was 11 years old and has damaged him ever since. In a statement, the school has now said it is difficult to read about practices which were sadly sometimes believed to be normal and almost acceptable at the time. Almost every facet of school life has evolved significantly since the 1970s. At the heart of the changes is the safeguarding of children and the promotion of their welfare.
Well, joining us now is royal correspondent Michael Cole. Good to see you this morning, Michael. And this is a very distressing read, isn't it, from Earl Spencer?
Good morning, Ellie. Good morning, Anne. Absolutely appalling. And his late father, Johnny Spencer, who I knew very well, and his stepmother, Rain Spencer, who I knew for 48 years and gave the eulogy at her memorial service, they would have been appalled had they known this was going on so close to Althorpe, the stately home of the Spencer family. Shocking. And when I think how Diana protected her little brother. He was only 4 and she was 6 when their mother, Frances, walked out. And ever after, she looked after him. Diana, fortunately, had a happy time at her prep school, Riddlesworth Hall, near Thetford in Norfolk. But this is shocking and disgraceful. And the people, most of those people, neither of them alive still, should hang their heads in hell or wherever they are. There we see Earl Spencer, who's made a good career for himself as an author and historian, a very clever guy. He could have got a first at Oxford, but he's come through a lot. And fortunately, in recent years, by people like Matt Ridley, son of Nicholas Ridley, the politician, they've done a lot to expose this sort of thing that went on at that time. I think it's shocking, actually, to hear the school say that it was regarded as normal. Well, it wasn't normal where I lived. I'm so glad that I didn't have an expensive education because my parents and those around us, my family, would have been shocked by such things. And, of course, as Charles Spencer says, it's left a scar on his life. And I think this, without doubt, that must do. Appalling. And that such things were regarded as normal at the time is awful. But of course, he went on to Eton, and I think he had a much, much happier time there. And he's carried on, and he's carried on the tradition of the Spencer family at Althorpe ever since.
It's worth pointing out, though, as well, Michael, isn't it, that while some people hearing this for the first time and reading it today may think, oh, here we got another royal whinging and blaming everybody else, he has done extensive research and has found that so many of his contemporaries at the school were too ashamed to say anything at the time, but are quite happy to corroborate what went on there. It's not just him, in other words. This is clearly a huge problem, and his telling of it is truthful.
Terrible. Yeah, it was a pattern that went on at these sort of schools. You read about it in Eton, or you get hints of it elsewhere. But it is vile because children are vulnerable. They are in the power of these people. There is no escape. You're within the bounds of that school. What says they're regarded when you start as gods, And then you suddenly find the gods have absolutely not only feet of clay, they have evil intentions. And I think something like that happening, whether it's a little girl or a little boy, it can scar them for life. So it's deplorable, it's contemptible. And if we can root out that in our present society, we'll have done a very, very good thing indeed.
Yeah, absolutely appalling, Michael. In happier news, I did want to reflect on Prince Edward at 60, because there have been some really beautiful words exchanged between himself and his wife Sophie this week, hasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. He got quite emotional and he didn't mind showing it. I think it was when she said, "You're my best friend." I think that was it. In fact, quite a rare public showing of emotion in the royal family. There we are, Prince Edward. He was, of course, I remember very well, 60 years ago, the newspaper bulletins were printed in blue, and in Savoy. Queen, of course, was 38, which was then considered quite an advanced age to give birth to a new baby. I knew Edward. I mean, he didn't have a terribly easy time of it. He had to struggle. He had to try harder than the rest. And I knew him when he was trying to make a success of television production at Ardent Productions. He worked with Desmond Wilcox, Esther Ranson's late husband. Desmond, Desi, held his hand for a long time with programs, and I helped him with a program on the Duke of Windsor, which was called Edward on Edward. And I got to know he was a little bit brittle. He was a little bit difficult at the time. And of course, unfortunately, the company Ardent failed, which I think probably he didn't realize how difficult television is. He had a rather posh office with an atrium and marble and leggy secretaries running around. Well, when you have the appurtenances of success, but you don't have success, you can burn through a lot of money very, very, very quickly. And that's what happened. And eventually the royal family said, no, pack it up, Edward, just become a royal. And he's made a good success of that. And at this time, with a diminishing number of active royals, working royals as they're being called, he's coming into his own. And he belatedly was made Duke of Edinburgh, which was always promised to him by his father. And his big success, and I've seen him at work on several occasions at dinners, he's been a successful leader of the Duke of Edinburgh award scheme, which of course he inherited from his father, and now in his own title and in his own right, and he's taking it forward. And a lot of young people are benefiting from his work.